Hello everyone, my name is Marion. This is my Ronald McDonald alarm clock. Now here's the thing. The first question that you might be asking is, of course, does it work? To which I say, no, unfortunately it does not work. It hasn't worked for the 4 years that I've owned this. The second question that you might be asking is, why do I own this? Well, let me explain. So I've made quite a few Ronald McDonald videos on this channel before already. The most infamous being the reciting the entire history of Ronald McDonald all the way through from memory, which I actually had done before that in this video called I Have No Idea, which nobody watched. When I did that video, I don't know if I necessarily went into depth on why I know so much about Ronald McDonald and why I collect the memorabilia that I do. In fact, I'll even flash up just some of the stuff that I own of like Ronald McDonald, like merchandise and things like that. A lot of it is stuff that was bought off of eBay and things like that, and the newer stuff that I did buy was before like 2023, so needless to say, I try my best not to buy, you know, newer Ronald McDonald merch, if you will, aka like Ronald McDonald merchandise and McDonaldland merchandise that McDonald's themselves puts out in the modern day, if you will. So why do I do this? Why do I buy this memorabilia? Why do I know so much about him that I can recite his entire history from memory? What is this? You know, why? Well, let me explain. So as a young boy, I was into all the same things that other young boys were into. You know, I was into Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, the X-Men, the Hulk, which was a really big one for me. And then the first Iron Man movie came out in 2008, and that was such a big deal for me. To where from 2008 all the way up to like 2011 or so, especially with the release of Iron Man 2, when it was just like Iron Man 2 was everywhere all over the place, my love for Iron Man was like just off the wall, you know, like I wanted to be Iron Man. That's how big it was for me at the time, you know, like I even had like an Iron Man, a full-on like Iron Man collection of like toys and things like that. Now, unfortunately, I have no idea where those all went, but yeah, so Iron Man was a very big deal for me. Now, if someone were to ask me right now, who are my childhood heroes right off the bat, I would say it's Ronald McDonald, Iron Man, Jason Voorhees, Robin, and Spider-Man. Now, some of those are a little more self-explanatory, like Spider-Man has always been extremely popular, you know, everybody knows who Spider-Man is. Robin's a little weirdy probably to some people, but to other people it's probably not that weirdy, you know, especially for those of us who grew up both like, you know, watching him in the cartoons and like reading him in the comics. Like, unironically, I think like as a kid I kind of had like a crush on Tim Drake Robin from the New Adventures of Batman. Like, this was when I was like 10 years old or so, because I thought he was so cool, how he was just this like 12-year-old kid running around and taking down villains and shit. I thought it was fucking awesome, man. And then, you know, Iron Man, I already pretty much explained. And then there's Jason Voorhees, and I shouldn't do that gesture, I'm so sorry. Then there's Jason Voorhees and Ronald McDonald, which are probably the most oddball ones out there. And ironically, they kind of have the same reasoning as to why they became my childhood heroes. And I know that sounds really weird, but so let me explain. So here's the thing. I am a wrestling fan, and I've always been a wrestling fan for many years. But the thing is that my love for wrestling actually started off with video games. You know, as a kid, I watched wrestling, but before I watched wrestling, I actually got into wrestling video games first. Specifically watching those like SVR 2000 whatever videos, you know, those SmackDown versus Raw videos where people would like have their own storylines and make their own like AMVs and things like that. And one day, I stumbled upon this video called SVR 2010, Jason versus the Mario Bros. And Naruto Gauntlet match. Now, I had no idea who the fuck Jason Voorhees is, or Naruto is. I still don't really know who Naruto is. I'm not an anime guy. But that was my introduction to Jason Voorhees. And despite the fact that like horror movies scared the shit out of me at the time, as I was pretty young, at the same time, I also thought he was pretty fucking cool, to where I would end up looking up things like Lego Friday the 13th. I would look up like different Friday the 13th scenes, you know, and then once I became like a teenager, you know, and I became a little bit older, you know, I started watching like Decker Shadow's like review for the Friday the 13th franchise and things like that. Like, at this point I had already pretty much I had pretty much started watching the movies from that point, and that's when Jason, like I know pretty much everything about Jason nowadays, you know. So yeah, it started from that. And the reason why I bring that up is also because of the fact that my love for Ronald McDonald kind of started off in that way too. Now, I always knew who Ronald McDonald was. Pretty much anybody my age or older knows who Ronald McDonald is. The younger kids probably might not know, as he probably wasn't nearly as around for them. But for me, Ronald McDonald was always there along with everybody else and pretty much anybody who is old, like me or older, like my age or older, if you will, because he's been around since like literally the early 60s. You know, he's been around since before my dad was born. And the thing was that I already liked Ronald McDonald at the time, you know, watching his commercials. I thought he was cool, but the thing that cemented it for me was two things, which was the SmackDown versus Raw Ronald McDonald videos of like his entrance or whatever someone would make him in the video game, or even like this one like entrance video with like him and the Hamburglar and things like that. And then there was this one, which unironically to me is one of the best videos on the fucking internet. I don't remember, it's SmackDown vs. Raw 2008, like fast food fight or whatever. I don't remember the name, but I'll put it in the link in the description below. Unironically, that video is fucking awesome. It's kind of weird on some parts, but it's pretty fucking great. It's Ronald McDonald, Colonel Sanders, Wendy from Wendy's, the Hamburglar, this guy called TKK, which nobody really knows who that is, unless I don't exactly remember I think it was one of the first fast food chains in Taiwan, maybe? But it's all of them just fighting and shit, and there's like this whole storyline to it. It's just fucking awesome. Just fucking watch it. It's fucking great. But yeah, like, for everyone else sees Ronald McDonald as this, like, you know, just like clown or whatever, as a kid, I didn't just see him, like, I still saw him as that cool, like, clown, if you will, but I also saw him as this, like, cool-ass fucking wrestler that fucking came back from the dead, and he beat Colonel Sanders and shit. And then also the same guy who also had a rivalry with SpongeBob SquarePants, which I hope that people remember that video. That video is fucking great. Another video that unfortunately does not exist anymore was the Burger King versus Ronald McDonald Hell in a Cell video by Dragon something, or was it Itachi? I don't remember who made it, but yeah, that video no longer exists anymore, unfortunately. I actually had it saved to a playlist, but it ended up getting deleted, but that was another video too. And then eventually I watched the Wacky Adventures of Ronald McDonald cartoon, which just like pushed me even further, you know? And then, like, because obviously I still, like, the thing is that, like, the wrestling videos obviously, like, made me think, like, whoa, Ronald McDonald's really cool. The Wacky Adventures of Ronald McDonald series made me like Ronald even more because he had this just, like, overall, like he had obviously that everyman persona to him as well, but at the same time, it's also because of the fact that he just seemed like a cool guy, you know? I loved watching those cartoons too. I watched all the episodes, and yeah, I watched a lot of like the older commercials from like the 1970s to the 1980s, and I was like, at that point, I was pretty much hooked on Ronald McDonald. I was hooked on Iron Man and Ronald McDonald, so much so that I ended up actually dressing up as Ronald McDonald that very same year. Here's a photo, by the way. This is not a joke. That is me. I swear it's me. I censored the face, so or whatever, but like that is me as Ronald McDonald for Halloween. I even remember I actually went to like this Halloween event with my Thea and my brother, and I got stopped by like so many people were waving hi to me, like, "Hi, Ronald McDonald," and I was like, this is so cool. But yeah, like my mom full on made me like the costume. She even made me like a big, like she made like a Happy Meal box that I could put my candy in and stuff. You know, it was awesome, honestly. Like, it was so fucking cool. I may be kind of a hard ass when it comes to my mom, but at the same time, I'm like, that was honestly pretty damn awesome of her to, you know, go out of her way to make me a Ronald McDonald costume. And then once I, you know, became a teenager, you know, obviously the things that we love start to fade, you know, as far as things go. Like, we lose interest in the things that we like. I was no longer as into wrestling. I wasn't as into Ronald McDonald anymore. I still liked him, but I just wasn't nearly as into it. And I think that was mostly because of also just like pure pressure from like the people around me and knowing like what things are like cool and what things aren't cool, you know? I still loved Spider-Man and Robin and all those guys. And that's at that point I started to get really deep into comic books even more. So yeah, at that point I started to get really into horror movies and things like that, you know, and obviously I would still tune into like the MCU along with reading the comics and things like that. Civil War was like insanity to me, where I finally saw Spider-Man join up with the Avengers, which was a really big deal at the time for me. I mean, it's still a big deal, but you know, but yeah. But then, as I got older and older and eventually became an adult, you know, all of a sudden I just started to have an immense amount of nostalgia for things like Ronald McDonald again. And this time, obviously, I went a lot deeper as far as like, you know, learning the entire history all the way through and collecting a lot of memorabilia as well, you know. And now we're back to where, you know, as far as why I own the alarm clock and own all the stuff that I do. And it really comes down to the fact that, like, he reminds, like, obviously Jason Voorhees, Iron Man, and all that stuff remind me, you know, of the good times, I guess, you know, if you will. Even the times where he would scare, like Jason Voorhees would scare me and things like that. And along with Robin and Spider-Man, you know. But Ronald McDonald reminded me of a very specific time in my life where, you know, like, I got this just such an immense amount of joy from these characters, you know. Like, I still remember those commercials so vividly. Like, I remember the one that I remember like liking a lot was Grimace's birthday, and I still love Grimace's birthday. If just for some reason I love that commercial so much. And of course, like when Birdie learns to fly or whatever, those have always been, you know, my favorites, if you will. And I guess the reason why I'm collecting a lot of this stuff is also both from a sense of nostalgia, but also just because of like a form of like closure, if you will, because when I was a kid, I wanted to own a lot of the stuff that I own now, you know. I would have loved to have Ronald McDonald bed sheets and all that shit, you know, but the thing is that they're obviously, like, if you have a hard time finding Robin bed sheets, you're gonna have a hard time finding Ronald McDonald bed sheets, no matter how popular he is, you know. And so, you know, owning all the stuff that I do now, it feels like a sense of closure where it's like, you know, kid me would have loved to own the stuff that I do. He would have loved to own these like old, like these a mint condition 1970s Ronald McDonald Remco doll. He would love to own this Ronald McDonald doll. He would have probably fucking went to bed with that every night and been like, hey Ronald, we're gonna go on an adventure and things like that, you know? He would have loved that. He would have loved to own all the tapes. He would have loved to own all sorts of the little Happy Meal toys and even the Funko Pops and the other stuff and things like that. He would have loved to be able to say that he owns all this stuff, you know? And I guess that's what it is too, you know? But obviously I'm not just doing this because of that. I really enjoy collecting a lot of this stuff too, you know? Because it's also just historic. Like, owning a mint condition 1970s Remco Ronald McDonald doll is honestly just so fucking sick, you know? And what's even sicker is the fact that, like, since being into like Ronald McDonald and McDonaldland is such a like niche thing, if you will, because obviously there's people out there who are into that stuff because I know them and I followed them on Instagram. I followed Filming in McDonald. Like, I follow a lot of those people, you know. The thing is that it's still a very niche thing. So whenever someone sells like Ronald McDonald memorabilia, they don't sell it for that much. That Remco doll, despite the fact that is literally over like it's literally more than 50 years old, and yet it's still in box. Like, if that was like a Mezco, like Spider-Man, that would have gone for like thousands, you know? But since it's like something that people don't really necessarily care too much about, I got that thing for like $60 or so, you know? Which is insanity to me, because to me, that thing is fucking priceless. You couldn't fucking pry that thing off my hands no matter how hard you tried, you know? And so, yeah, like I said, I know there's gonna be comments like, you're obsessing over like a clown that was made to, like, you know, like lure you in to like eat unhealthy food for you and things like that. I know it is, I know. And like, that's the thing, I don't like McDonald's the company, you know? And I even said that in the, you know, in that video that I made. I even addressed that, like, I don't like the company. I think that the corporation is overall not great. But at the same, I love the commercials, you know? And I think another reason is because of the fact that the people who made the commercials, you know, and made these productions, like, they themselves, like, weren't even part of the corporation, really. They were their own, like, local thing. And the corporation would just come in and say, here, advertise this, do whatever you want. And they would do what they would want, you know? And so it's like, I guess that's why I could feel like, no, this isn't just like, because with McDonald's ads nowadays, like, or any just like ads, you can tell it's like, yeah, they're here to try to sell me something, but I don't fucking care. But when they're going, like, when you have like a full-on like 3-part series of like Grimace trying to get his voice back, you know, that's not even advertising food, really. it's like, at that point, you're just like, okay, whoever's doing this is just trying to have a good time, you know? They're just trying to make stories for kids and shit, you know? And maybe I'm like huffing copium, you know? Maybe I'm like trying to give the benefit of the doubt to this entire thing. But you know what? Maybe I am. But at the same time, it's something that brings me joy. And it's like, the thing is that, like, I'm not going to say my childhood was the worst. It wasn't great, but it wasn't the worst compared to others who, you know, are also my age and also suffered an immense amount, you know? Like, if anything, like suffered more than me, you know? But also, it wasn't amazing. I had those dark spots. Hell, I still have those dark spots, you know? Like, there are things that happened, you know, to me as a kid and things like that that still affect me to this very day, you know? And so it's like it's definitely a thing of where it's like, you know, it was this one constant in my life where it's like I could still rely on the fact that, like, you know, because I could still rely on, like, Ronald and his friends being like, hey guys, today we're gonna go on a good old adventure, you know? I don't know. I don't know if this video seems weird. It probably is, but then again, I think I've probably established by now with my channel that I'm a pretty weird person, if you will, which I guess is fine. I've always been called weird anyway, so I guess it's not that much different. But yeah, so bringing it back to this, I genuinely, I guess the reason why this means so much to me is because like I said, I own a mint condition 1973 Remco Ronald McDonald doll, along with owning another Remco Ronald McDonald doll that I got loose and that was in pretty damn good condition. It's actually over here, actually, hold on. Like, I own this guy, dude. Like, this is pretty fucking cool. Like, he came in, like, pretty damn good condition, all things considered, from a toy that has literally been opened and played with since the early 1970s, you know? But it's like, somehow, some way, like, despite the fact, like, this still means a lot to me. I still love this figure so, so much. In fact, I love all my Ronald McDonald memorabilia. And you know, despite the fact that I've, like, this video is kind of about, like, I've obviously been showing off this guy, like, I love all my Ronald McDonald memorabilia. I love this guy and I love this alarm clock, but somehow, some way, I don't know. Like, I also own that Ronald McDonald doll too, which also means a lot to me because I love plushies, you know? But I don't know, something about this thing just means so much to me. And I guess it just is because of the fact that, like, there's something about this, you know? Like, there's something about this that just brings me this sense of childish joy, I guess. You know, knowing that, like, and it's probably also because of the fact that it's an older style alarm clock, you know? Because, like, obviously digital alarm clocks don't exist anymore either, because nowadays everybody uses their phone, but the fact that it's, like, this older style alarm clock that, you know, does the, like, thing or whatever, you know? Like, it's that, it's also because of the fact that it's one of my favorite Ronald McDonald actors in it, you know? I don't know, it just gives me this weird sense of joy that I love so much, you know? Maybe it's also because he's just in there being like, time to go to bed, you know? I don't know. But yeah, this thing, along with all my merchandise, means so much to me, and just Ronald McDonald in general means so much to me, you know? Because I guess he just brings me a sense of happiness, you know? And at times, like, I didn't want to bring this up, but, like, especially during times like these where it's like, you know, like, things are really uncertain right now and a lot of people are pretty damn scared, and I'm scared too. Like, I don't know, it's the little things that bring me joy, you know, that for a second, like, things on the outside world that seem horrifying, you know, seem to fade away for a second, you know. I don't know. But yeah, that's my Ronald McDonald alarm clock. Anyways, I guess that's pretty much it. Thank you to everyone for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. And maybe I'll see you guys again sometime soon. And remember, stay safe and sane. Bye.